Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me today, as always, on Wednesday, is my good friend Alex Spears. Alex, what up?
What's up, Andrew? What a win last night!
Dude, I was texting with my buddy Peter this morning, and this might be giving away one of my awards later on, but losing 3 games to the Kings at the end of the season is easily the biggest accomplishment of this Thunder season, right?
Yeah, man. Especially when you factor in how many players they had missing.
Yes. I mean, if you told me they were missing Fox and Halliburton for those 3 games, and I'd say, great, we're probably winning 2.
And then you throw in Harrison Barnes is out.
Yes.
And then for this most recent game, even Marvin Bagley was out, which at least he can put up points.
I know.
They just kept upping the ante, and the Thunder just kept responding. They were like, you know what? Whoever you throw at us, or whoever you don't throw at us, we will match you.
They didn't play a guard last night. I don't know if you can. I mean, Svi is not a guard; he's a wing. So they didn't play one guard last night.
And they had one of their best first halves we've seen in a long time.
I know. I got scared. But I actually, once I realized the shooting percentage that they were shooting, I think it was 63%, and they were only up 3. I was like, all right, this game's in the bag. This is over.
Yeah, but
Charlie Brown's going to keep hitting.
No, there wasn't any chance of that. But still, you just worry because it becomes one of those games where it just is such an ugly basketball game that you wonder if getting up by 14, if that's just too much to overcome. Will the Kings be able to come back from that? And not only did they come back, they that third quarter, I don't remember what the exact stat was. I think it was 32 to 14, something like that.
41 to 18 in the quarter.
41 to 18. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was it was shocking, but
yeah.
And on the other hand, it was oh no, this shouldn't be shocking at all. Look who's on the court. Why am I surprised by this?
Yeah,
but it really it felt like our luck had run out. I know.
I thought
this is just how it ends.
Gosh, and no Dort, and Poku's there, but Poku is not a huge part of what was happening.
Yeah,
and the fact that it's Kenrich and Roby and
so much bays.
Charlie Brown, tons of bays, too much bays. We had the Tony Bradley going off in the first half. I was oh no. And then things leveled out pretty significantly. Huge shouts to the deals that the Kings made at the trade deadline. Because if they didn't make those, if they didn't get Terrence Davis basically for nothing, and they didn't have DeLon Wright, there's just no way that they win all 3 of those games. Big shouts for both of those trade deadline deals, Kings, to just wiggle yourself into mediocrity. Good job.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Mo Harkless, him being there as well.
And Mo Harkless? My gosh.
They still had functional players. I mean, at least their starting lineup, DeLon Wright, Buddy Hield, Rashawn Holmes, Mo Harkless, those 4, that's better than what we were throwing out there.
Leave out Chimezie Metu?
Oh, I'm going to leave him out.
He's all right.
Yeah, if he was on our team, we'd be talking about him is he a guy?
We would. Definitely. Rashawn Holmes is pretty good. DeLon Wright's good. Harkless has played well against the Thunder, and then obviously Terrence Davis, and then Boris Whiteside is still getting DMP CDs even in this environment.
Yeah, seriously, we never got to see a Whiteside Moses Brown matchup. We're robbed of that.
That is the biggest travesty of this series, is that we didn't get to see that happen. Anything on the Thunder side that you were impressed with besides losing the game?
Impressed? Man, I guess the only thing I could say...
Dig deep.
Oh, yeah, I'm digging deep. I mean, Deck's post play We've talked about it previously.
Mm-hmm.
But especially last night, he just had a couple that were just kind of like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he's just very good. That is definitely his NBA skill so far, because he is not a shooter, I guess, or at least he is not. I mean, he just hasn't taken that many threes since he got here, and I don't know why I thought that was just like automatic. Like, oh, they're bringing over a guy. He's not a center, so he must be a shooter.
Yeah, played in the Euro League. You know, Manu Ginobili likes him. Obviously, he can shoot. You know,
Yeah,
he does not.
He does
and
not.
he's unwilling a lot of times to shoot from three. I mean, are we just unimpressed by Baisley's 18, 5, and 5, 0, or I guess he had 4 turnovers. But he's only 3 of 13. And I guess if you're going to be impressed by anything, it's getting to the line and shooting 12 free throws.
Yeah, absolutely. It just I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of point bays in the future.
No. I would say I'm probably a little bit more down on Darius after this season. And maybe that's unfair. Maybe he's one of the guys that is a role player and needs, good players to be a better player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the best he looked was that first couple weeks in the season.
Yeah.
He really looked good then, and that was with the full squad.
It's a functional team. Yeah.
And then he got the injury, and he was out for so long. And when he was out, that was when the Thunder were winning way too many games. And that's when we were all kind of getting excited about all these players. By the time he gets back, we're basically in full tank mode. And as we saw last night, he's being asked to do things that it's cool to see because you might as well try it out and see what happens. But realistically, especially when you think about bringing in some blue chippers in the draft, his role next year is probably going to be more like it was last year, like on the Chris Paul team. And I think, we saw in the bubble, like he can have really nice runs in that kind of complementary role. So I think maybe once he gets back to that, we can kind of reassess it because, Bays is like future star. I'm not necessarily seeing it. Whereas at one time, I think we were talking about, what's the ceiling on this guy? Like he could be anything.
Yeah.
I don't really feel that way anymore. He could still be a good rotation player, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll have to work to earn his spot because they're going to have a lot of incoming young guys that they're going to want to develop. And there's already they already have several forwards. Poku's here, Deck is here. He's going to have to work to earn that spot, which I think is a good thing for him. I think competition will be a good thing for him. So I'm not writing him off or anything, but I do think that his season was a little disappointing in ways. But someone whose season who has not been disappointing is Kenrich Williams, who played again and was awesome again. 20 points, 2 boards, 4 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks in 33 minutes, 8 of 15 from the field. And he was named to the Zach Lowe, Luke Walton All-Stars this morning.
Yeah.
Which is correct. I'm not even saying good job, Zach Lowe. It's just correct that he's on there.
Right. And he had I guess we kind of already knew this, but I did think it was interesting that Zach Lowe brought up that many teams were interested in him at the at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But that Kenrich didn't want to leave OKC. That's how it was framed in the article, which I thought that was a little interesting.
Yeah. I think it was the same for Muscala. I think Muscala decided that he would just prefer to stay as well. So I don't know. I would guess it's true. I don't think Zach Lowe would put it in his article if it wasn't true. But that it is interesting. And then that he sits a majority of the final 20 games. But
right.
I think that they do have plans with this guy, because if the Thunder are somehow going to make a quick turnaround, let's say that they get a good player and then they're like, hey, let's just see if we can make the play-in next year. Or if they get really lucky in the draft and the lottery and get 2 top 5 picks, and then they just say, okay, we feel like this is good enough. We're going to be media. I mean, the truth is they're going to be likely pretty mediocre anyways. So let's just like push for it. And Kenrich is like a great guy to have in a lineup like that.
Yeah, and you have to assume that no one was making like a Godfather offer for Kenrich Williams. So
it was probably like a nice second for him.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm sure, or I have to imagine, if anyone ever offered a late first for Kenrich Williams, like the Thunder would have to take that.
Maybe. I don't know. He's good. Like he's legit good. Like his 3-ball, like it was really falling last night, but like his 3-ball, I think is going to be a reliable tool for him. And then he can play multiple positions. I don't know. Those guys are hard to find. And if you just unearth one of those guys, I don't know, you just like with Covington. Like Covington, they held on to him long enough to where he became so valuable that he was worth 2 firsts.
Yeah, true.
So I don't know. I mean, a late first rounder when you already have $1 billion first round picks. If they didn't have the treasure trove of assets, then yeah, I would probably do it. But when you have so many and you're going to be looking for those kind of guys, I don't know, like they have them under contract on like a really cheap contract. And if you have a good season, let's say the Thunder like are the 9th seed next year and they're good and they battle and they make the playoffs or something like that, and Kenrich Williams is their 6th man or whatever, like then he's probably worth more than that. So
yeah. And what was the hypothetical that you asked me before we started recording, Andrew?
Well, you look back at the Steven Adams trade, and it's just hypothetical. Let's say the Pelicans called, and it's not even possible to make this happen. But it is possible because of the cap space the Thunder have. So this is possible. They could call this summer and say, hey, we know that Steven is important to your community. Let's just do Steven for Kenrich straight up.
Yeah, you could even take the teams out of it, just like in a vacuum. Any 2 random teams. One has Steven Adams, one has Kenrich Williams.
How many things happen in a vacuum?
I mean, not that many.
Yeah,
probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But yes, let's say team wise, you think about it, but you probably don't do it.
You probably don't, especially if you're factoring in contracts. I mean, if you're factoring in contracts, it's like no.
It's a no-brainer.
Not.
Yeah, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Which is just wild to think how bad the Pelicans bungled that trade, because they had other pieces on their roster they could have. I mean, honestly, they should have done everything in their power to get off of Eric Bledsoe's contract at that time, because now they are so stuck with it. And you look at some of the conversations on Twitter among Pelicans fans, like talking about what would we have to give up to get off of Eric Bledsoe's contract at this point. And most people are saying like at least 1 first, if not 2 for most teams, because of how bad he's played this season. That was just such a terrible trade to give up so many assets. George Hill, who we got to
George Hill. Yeah.
And Kenrich Williams. And then I think we got picks as well.
Yeah.
Absurd.
It's an insane deal. It's one of the better deals that was made. And, and nobody knew what Kenrich was going into this season. Nobody thought that he was this. He was even one of the guys you probably can rewind and listen to some preseason pods where we're like, yeah, they're probably going to cut Kenrich Williams.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'm sure when that all was going down, people were saying, hey, why couldn't we just cut Kenrich Williams?
I can probably find you 100 tweets that say that.
Yeah.
And Frank Jackson's been good. Like, credit to Frank Jackson. He's
he's so good that the Pistons sat him last night.
Right. He's on the sit list.
He's too good to tank.
He is too good to tank.
Congrats to Frank.
Yeah. No, he's been good. But I'd still just rather give minutes to Ty Jerome than Frank Jackson.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah,
okay.
the Thunder have done something that they haven't done ever, and that's like make like really solid fringe moves.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like hitting on those kind of guys, the Ty Jeromes and the Kenrich Williams of the world. Even like Svi to a degree has been pretty good for the Thunder. it's just funny because like having a Kenrich Williams on any of those Durant Westbrook teams, or even like the Durant or the Westbrook Paul George teams, would have been absolutely perfect, right? Or Ty Jerome off the bench. Those guys would have been. I mean, Kenrich would have started for those PG teams easily.
Yeah, for sure. And this is one of the reasons why, as we get closer to the draft and we start thinking about who the Thunder might take, I mean, I'm probably going to have favorites by that point.
Yeah.
But honestly, seeing how this team played this season, I'm going to be excited about anyone because it seems like the system that is currently in place in Oklahoma City is going to get the best out of whoever they bring in. Because we've seen so many guys have career years with Oklahoma City Thunder this year, and you just brought up three of them. I mean, you could throw Moses in there as well. There's, I mean, up and down the roster, everyone is having a career year on this team, and so you just get excited when you think about, oh, not just bringing in an end of the roster, an end of the bench guy from some other team like they did this year. What happens when you bring in more blue chippers?
Yeah, I know. And then to think that, I mean, who knows? I mean, if they only get one pick in the top 5 and then they get like that 19th pick or whatever that Heat pick ends up being, like, you know, like the Thunder have been picking there for forever and have picked some like decent guys at that spot. You know, what comes of that pick? And then they're going to have probably 2 picks in this. I think for sure they're going to have 2 picks in the early second round now. And then like, what do we make of those 2 picks? You know, that's where they got Teo, was at that spot. So, I mean, it's very, very intriguing to see what this team will be. It'll be very different. You know, the Charlie Browns and the Tony Bradleys and the Josh Halls of the world will be gone. And like, they'll have at least, I don't know how good they'll be. I don't know how good these players will be coming off the bench, but they'll at least be like very intriguing to see.
And I think when you're talking about the picks, one thing we should mention maybe as we transition into the standings is that the recent run by Golden State, they're not going to get there, but man, they put up a good fight, almost are going to give us that pick. They're not going to make it. And if you think back to when Curry fell and broke his butt, they were 1-7 in those games without Steph. And if he had just not fallen that way and had played those 8 games, it's likely they'd go at least 4-4, if not 5-3.
Right.
And they are probably in the top 10 records right now. We would have gotten that first. That's how close it ended up being.
I know. That's such a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've won 4 in a row. Wiggins looked good last night.
Whatever.
That's weird. Okay. Let's go to the reverse standings here. Maybe I'll pull this up. It's kind of fun to pull it up on the stream. Share screen. Okay. So as of this morning, the Thunder sit at 3rd all by themselves in the reverse standings. Houston is going to have the top odds, followed by probably Detroit, right? They seem to be wanting to lose out. And then you have this jumbled up group of OKC, Cleveland, Orlando.
Yeah, so Detroit's, I think they're locked in. One, because we saw how they approached that Minnesota game last night. But also, they only have 2 games left, and it's Denver and Miami.
Yeah.
Both teams who still want to win.
They need to
playoff
win.
Positioning.
Yeah, they need to win.
So yeah, they're locked in. They're gonna have 20 wins. So then you're looking at the Magic and the Cavs. Is there any hope for either of those teams? The Cavs play Boston tonight.
That's it right there, right?
Which Boston played Miami last night. So that's
second night of a back-to-back. Maybe they sit Tatum.
Maybe they do. And Jaylen Brown is obviously out for the rest of the season.
Yep.
Kemba looked like he got hurt in that game last night, though he
hurt his shoulder, but he hurt his shoulder, but he came back.
If they had a shot, I think it'd be that game, because the next 2 games are on the road, at Washington, at Brooklyn. And even if Brooklyn's sitting people, I don't know by that point. So
I know.
that's probably the best shot. And then you go to Orlando. They play at Atlanta, and then 2 games at Philly. Now, Philly, if they win their next game, I think they will have the 1 seed locked up.
They will, and then they can rest, right?
They could.
And so we can get Orlando out of here.
They could rest everyone. And Orlando, to their credit, like their young guys are trying to win every single game. And if you get one good Cole Anthony game, it could theoretically happen.
True.
But probably not. So I would say most likely scenario is what we're looking at right now. Tied for the third best odds.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, remember, like a month ago, we were talking about most realistic would be getting to the 5th spot.
Yeah, and most realistic, yes, and like hoping that
hoping to get to the and then hoping to get to the 4th was like that was kind of the pipe dream. If we could get to the 4th, jump a couple of these teams. So now to be tied for 3rd, and you're going to split those odds. That's a really good outcome if it holds.
Yeah, still would feel really good to get a Cleveland win in there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, shout out to Minnesota to make it not a 4-way tie.
Oh my goodness, Minnesota.
Amazing.
What are they doing to themselves? They have Denver, Boston, Dallas left. But beating Orlando and Detroit back to back and then winning 4 in a row, those Utah wins, while pretty fun,
huge,
are just so detrimental to the future of this squad. I don't think they're going to look back and be like, the reason Anthony Edwards has become a star is because we won those 4 games in a row at the end.
Ooh. Well, can you all still see and hear me? Let me know in the chat. Okay, I think you can hear me. How is the wrist? The wrist still in a brace. Get it taken off tomorrow. Very exciting. I have not been able to sleep because it is so itchy underneath. And I got a really good hair dryer that I've been blowing down the brace to get some good airflow. It's been pretty nice. You're not supposed to stick a coat hanger down there, is what I read online.
Oh, I'm gonna leave all of this in, by the way. If that's okay.
Okay,
this is gold. Okay, so should we sim this lottery, Al?
Oh, sim it up.
Okay,
let's see what we're gonna get. Only one time. Okay, we jump up to the 3rd spot. Houston keeps the number 1 pick. Minnesota jumps up to number 2. Now that would be fun.
That would be fun.
And then the Thunder get the number 3 pick.
It's highly acceptable.
That is kind of like I feel like that's the median outcome.
Yeah, and the Thunder get the 20th pick. 3 and 20. And I'll bet it. Well, I don't know. Who does Minnesota take if they're at 2? They take Mobley?
Maybe. Yeah, that's tough. I mean,
whoever it is, whoever falls, if it's Suggs that falls, if it's Mobley that falls, I'll just be pumped and jacked.
Yeah, or if they're a team that, I mean, who knows? That could be a team that would trade the 2nd pick if they could get a high-level starter.
Who would that be?
Well, I don't know. We're going to talk about some guys later who we think might be changing teams. Maybe one of those guys.
So this is a painful one. Thunder get a 5th pick. All right, I've got to stop.
But still, as long as we get one top 5 pick, I think we should be satisfied.
Mm-hmm. This is the nightmare.
This is the worst case scenario where you drop to 6. Then you have to start thinking, okay, what could we possibly do?
Yeah, who can we trade? What can we? Yeah, Washington jumped to 2. Wow, how about that?
Wow.
Even this one is much better. 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Still a little sad, but workable. All right. Alex, let's go over to the stream real quick. See who has joined us today. We have, let's see, Falk from Denmark. We have Wojciech in Poland. Will Burchett says, good job on the reverse jinx, Alex. You did it.
Oh, thank you so much.
We have Daniel in the UK who says, Wasan boys. We have Adve, New Jersey. We have Hoopstock 69. We have Tom from Wal Maria on Paradise Island. Oh my, this sounds very nice. We have Jake Hendricks from Kansas City. We have Yoni from Israel. We have Wes Grag. We have Hui Jan from Hong Kong. Thanks for joining. We have some Bays love here in the house. We have Jay in Singapore. Loving Bays. Hoopstock 69 predicting that Bays will be trade bait. Let's see. We have No Limit says that we should trade for Shea's cousin.
No?
Would you do Bledsoe and would you just do Bledsoe and Nah? Just trade it into our cap space?
Oh man. I guess if the plan is to stretch Bledsoe, I would consider it. I just don't want. Yeah, I don't want to be in a position where we have to give minutes to Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, no kidding. Tyler Carroll, although it seems to be a helpful thing if you're trying to lose.
That's true.
Games. Yeah. Okay. Hope everybody's doing well. Dort in Slovenia. Dort. All right. Hope everybody's doing well, and we'll be right back after this quick break. And we're back after that quick break. Alex,
Yo.
Let's talk some awards.
Yes, we're going to give away some end of the year awards today. Now, we did this at the halfway point of the season, focusing on the Thunder. And so my first thought was, we should give some end of the season Thunder awards. But looking back over what we did at the halfway point in the season, turns out nothing had really changed. Arguably, the season ended at the halfway point, and we haven't learned a ton since then. Mm-hmm. And I was just realizing that my opinion on almost all of the awards that we gave are basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, we are going to make this more broad. These are going to be more NBA focused, league-wide focused. There will be some Thunder questions mixed in there, but most of these are going to be league-wide. So, Andrew, we have 15 awards. We'll see how many we get through. You ready to start?
Let's do it.
All right. So our first award going to the most disappointing player or team of the season. So you can pick a player, you can pick a team. Who was the player or team that disappointed you personally the most this year, Andrew?
This is very, very personal, but I have two teams that I feel like were the most disappointing, and it's
you can only give one. You can only give one award, Andrew.
Oh, okay.
Do not cheat.
I'll say it's the Pelicans.
The Pelicans, okay.
I was very disappointed in the Pelicans. They didn't even make the play-in, Al. It's really
bad.
They had this team. They had traded Drew Holiday, and they had gotten a great deal for Drew Holiday, and it still felt like they were still in position to at least be a top 10 team. And you come out of this season feeling a little weird about Brandon Ingram, maybe. And then, like, outside of Zion, like, what do you feel truly confident about?
Not only that, it's like they have set themselves up where they've set themselves up for cap hell with the Bledsoe and the Adams deals, to the point where that might be a reason why they don't re-sign Lonzo, because they have so much other money committed. And it's like, do we really want to add another $20+ million a year contract? Yeah, I super disappointed with the Pelicans. And they're a weird team in that there's kind of like two phases to this season. The one phase where they shifted to point Zion and all of a sudden they were a really good offense and their defense was terrible. Now you have this more recent version of the Pelicans where actually their defense has gotten really good. It's been like top 10 over this whatever recent amount of time, but their offense has now tanked. So they just have not been able to figure out what they should do. They obviously made a huge commitment to Stan Van Gundy, so they're stuck there.
Yeah.
And I think they are a fascinating team for this summer because Lonzo's obviously the big name. Like, what are they going to do with him? But I'm more interested in they have all this future treasure chest of assets with the Lakers picks, the Bucks pick. Do they use any of those assets to just kind of clean up their cap in any way? Whether that's getting Bledsoe or maybe even moving someone like Steven Adams. I think Steven Adams is much more salvageable than Bledsoe. So I think the priority should be getting rid of Bledsoe as best you can. Also because like Stan Van just keeps playing him.
I know.
Like at some point you just have to recognize like, okay, fine if he's going to be on our roster, but like we have to invest in other players who want to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, they're playing a lot of James Johnson too. What are we doing here? Like
really weird.
What's going on here? I think they made the wrong choice in the coach, and I've been a Stan Van guy for a long time, but he doesn't seem to be getting through to those guys, and that's a problem.
For me, I'm glad you chose the Pelicans because I chose a different team. I chose the Boston Celtics. Okay. Just as a team that it just seemed obvious, good coach. Like if you had said at the beginning of the year, like, not only are you getting a good year of Brad Stevens, but you're going to have career years from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And the career year from Jaylen Brown is going to be like better than you could even imagine. It's shocking that they've been as mediocre as they've been. And just a up and down roller coaster season. Obviously, they dealt with a ton in terms of COVID protocols.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're looking for a silver lining, you're hoping you can just write this season off and come in next year. But what scares me for the Celtics is they made their all-in move with Evan Fournier.
That is the worst sentence you could say.
Yeah. And he has an expiring contract. So now this summer, when like, honestly, you'd be trying to get off of Kemba, which I don't think you're going to be able to do. Compounding that problem is that now you have to be like, okay, do we want to pay Evan Fournier? Is this going to be like a key part of our rotation? Because if he's not, it's not like you have a ton of other cap space to do something else with that slot. So they also, in a way, feel kind of screwed. And now is the time where like Danny Ainge has to start making moves to bolster like the end of this roster or like the middle to end of this roster, which he has just not done with all these, failed or middling first round picks. So that's why they get my most disappointing award.
Yeah. They have been absolutely disappointing.
All right, let's do our next award. We'll shift to a positive one. Let's skip ahead and we'll do the Leap Year Award. So this is an award given to a player who is having an awesome year, who we think has made a real leap and is only going to get better. This is not a flash in the pan, Andrew. Who do you have for your Leap Year Award?
Well, if you listen to Monday's show, it's just hard for me not to pick Shea. Maybe that's a homer pick.
Oh, what a homer!
But he had a legitimately great season. Like he's on his way to being, a top 15, top 20 player in the league. And I don't see any reason why it won't get better. I mean, I think it will because I think they'll have better players on the team next year. I think you'll have a full calendar year to have Mark Daigneault in that coach's seat, which I think is a good thing. And then, Shea's going to have a lot of time off. He's going to get to play for Team Canada. And I don't know if like the Team Canada stuff will have the same impact that having those young Thunder players play for Team USA did. But like those were big moments for those guys to go and play for their national teams. And it helped them make a leap. Now, I don't know if the same thing will happen with Team Canada because the competition is a lot different and Shea is likely the best player on the team. But perhaps that will even boost his confidence even more, knowing that, like, I think that it's probably safe to say that like the best Canadian player in the NBA is Shea. So to me, that's a big deal. I don't think that anybody would be saying that about him, years ago. So I'll take Shea as a guy that made a leap and will continue to get better.
And mine is going to go to a Denver Nugget, Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
He has been incredible since Jamal Murray went down. He had a rough start to the season, wasn't looking great. Then he dealt with COVID. Then he came back and he was still trying to fit his way into that roster. He would have flashes. But since Jamal Murray has gone down, he has really stepped up. And you look at his stat line, and this is only his second year playing in the NBA because he missed that first year with the injury. He's shooting 45% on 6 3-point attempts per game. Currently for the season, averaging right around 20 points. He's a guy who I think already, but it's definitely going to be by next season, everyone will acknowledge that he's the Nuggets' second best player. Yeah. And he's a guy who I think could easily score 25 plus points as early as next season. And he's a guy, because of his efficiency, if he can get to the line, because that is definitely the weakest part of his game. He's only averaging 2.2 attempts right now, but he is so efficient in all other aspects of his game. If he can start getting to the line, he could be a 30-point per game scorer in this league. Yeah. He is just so efficient. Because he's so tall, he can get shots whenever he wants. And he is a guy who I just am super high on going forward. And it seems like he cares too. You read some of the stories coming out about him going to Mike Malone and wanting to be better at defense. Like it seems like he wants it. He's not just going to be a guy who's going to be only offense. Now, he's not good at defense yet, but I do think he's going to get better there. So that's my leap year award.
That's a good one. That's one of those inflection points for Denver. If they didn't have him or they selected somebody else, or the Kings were rumored to want him at 2 in that draft. And let's say if the Kings just went ahead and took him, to 1, it would have been a great move for the Kings. And then 2, like, where are the Nuggets without him during this stretch? I don't know.
All right, our next award, this is the Cursed Fan. Andrew, this goes to the team that we'd least like to be a fan of for the next 5 years. So for this one, I looked at salary cap, or what teams are in salary cap hell. What teams don't have a lot of young, exciting prospects that I would get excited to watch. And I went with one that I wasn't expecting to go with, but it was the team that we watched last night. It was the Sacramento Kings.
No, well, that's who I picked too.
I really wanted to choose someone else because De'Aaron Fox, fun. Tyrese Halliburton, fun.
Sure.
A lot of solid rotation players. Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield. There's players on this team, but I think that this franchise is just so dysfunctional that I can't imagine it ever working out. And as much as I like Tyrese Halliburton, I don't know if he's that type of franchise player who can reverse the fortunes of a bad franchise in the way that LeBron going to Cleveland reversed that terrible franchise's fortunes. And they've gone right back to being terrible afterwards. So unless they get super lucky in the draft, get someone like a Cade Cunningham, who maybe is that type of player, I just see the next 5 years kind of being what they've been. I mean, maybe they make the play-in tournament, but I just have no hope for this Kings franchise going forward.
Yep, no hope. There's none. And I'm a hope guy. I'm full of hope. There's none.
There's none. I like the only other teams. I actually considered Portland.
Oh gosh,
I considered it. When you look at their cap situation and you start thinking about how old Dame is and what they could look like in 4 to 5 years.
Oh no.
I also looked at the Cavs, but yeah, I had to go with the Kings. Okay, our next award is the Bounce Back Award. This goes to the team who had a rough year, but who we would already take their over for next season. So if they came, just a blind bet, you don't even know what the over-under is going to be. You're already locking in the over for this team.
I'm going to say the Celtics.
The Celtics.
I think that people will be down on them after
That is true.
after they lose in the play-in. They'll probably lose in the play-in. So let's say they lose the play-in. Like, oh my gosh, what a failure! Oh my gosh, this team sucks. This team is horrible forever. Really, what they need to do is make moves around the edges of the team. Like, just make a functional looking team, right? That's all they need to do. And you can get guys to come to Boston to form a functional team. If they were in a small market, I would say, I don't know. I don't know if they can do it. In Boston, for sure, you can do it. So I think that they could easily come back. You get Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown's injury is not so bad that he's going to miss time for next season too. He's going to come back. And then even if they keep Kemba, and then you just get some functional NBA players around them, like they're instantly a good team. So I'll say the Celtics. I would say that they could bounce back.
Well, I remember when the Thunder beat the Celtics when Jaylen Brown was out. A question I put up on Twitter that I would really like to have a smart NBA person answer this is rank everyone who just played in this game. Because I really think if you just gave Boston 3 or 4 of these guys on the Thunder, and I'm not talking about Shea or Dort. I'm just saying, like, give them Svi, give them Ty Jerome, give them Kenny Hustle.
Yeah.
Like, this team, the Celtics would be significantly better, it feels
That's what I'm saying. You get a Ty Jerome and a Kenny Hustle in there. Yeah, those guys play a lot for the Celtics, and they help them a lot.
Okay, my team for the Bounce Back Award, the Toronto Raptors. This one feels like easy money.
That's
now, this is also going to come back when I bring up my Worst Take of the Year award.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Toronto Raptors playing in Tampa Bay. The only thing that makes me a little hesitant is that Stephen LeBron on Twitter was bringing up the fact that, like, are we sure Toronto's going to be back in Toronto next season? Like, do we feel confident enough in everything working out with COVID that Toronto's actually going to be able to go back to Toronto next season? That was the first time I'd ever heard someone say that, and that's the only thing that gave me pause. Otherwise, as long as we assume they're back in Toronto, this team still has a ton of talent, even if Kyle Lowry leaves, and they are now in a position where they could easily jump up into the top 5. I mean, they are not far behind these teams. And if that happens, all of a sudden their fortunes dramatically change. So I'm very high on Toronto. This was absolutely the season from hell more than any other team in the league, just because of what they had to endure being in Tampa Bay for an entire season.
Yeah. And they'll be in the lottery, and maybe they get lucky.
Maybe they will.
Who knows?
Okay, let's mix in a Thunder question, Andrew. Let's go to the Worst Win of the Season award. This award goes to the Thunder's worst win of the season. They have 21 of them, Andrew. Which one miffed and peeved you the most?
I mean, it's got to be the Boston game, right?
Not for me, Andrew.
I figured you wouldn't pick them. You're in the midst of this historic losing streak, and it's a win that you can point to say if they would have just lost that game. And it's also a game that the Celtics wanted to win, right? Like, they needed that game.
They did.
And they dropped it. And that, to me, is it could end up being catastrophic. It's not good.
Here's what I would say. One, I put more blame for that win on the Celtics than the Thunder. The Celtics were truly horrible in that game. And I would also say that win prevented this current Thunder team from owning the record of longest losing streak in franchise history, which doesn't really matter long term. No, but I know the guys wanted to avoid that. And so that was nice for them. And I would argue the actual worst win of the season was March 21st at Houston.
Yeah.
Why was this win so bad? By that time, OKC did not have SGA, Horford, Muscala, and Bays was out. Mm-hmm. Houston had lost 19 in a row, and we're trying to avoid being the 8th franchise in league history to lose 20 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they had tons of incentive. Also, they were completely healthy for that game. Their starting lineup, John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Christian Wood, Jayshawn Tate, Daniel House Jr. That's a legit NBA lineup. That's perfectly good. They were healthy, and Kevin Porter Jr. played 20 minutes off the bench. Like, they had all of their guys. They had all the incentive in the world to win that game and not get to 20 losses in a row, which is a franchise record now. And what did we have? We had that Dort block, amazing play, of course. Dort block on John Wall in the closing seconds. And then John Wall also had like a 3-look at the end to win it. Both of them didn't go down for the Rockets. And so the Thunder get that win. I also thought this win was more significant because Houston is below them in the standings. It probably, they're so far behind at this point. It doesn't matter. But who knows? What if the Rockets win that game and their season turns around, Andrew?
Sure.
That's the spark they needed.
I didn't know that we get to throw in hypotheticals for other teams into the worst win of the season. Yeah, I mean, and you get 15 from Justin Jackson, who goes 5 of 6 on the field.
Not even on the team anymore.
Not even on the team.
Wasn't even traded.
I know. He's a two-way player for the Bucks now. Yeah, that I agree. That was bad. Like, Kevin Porter Jr. Scored 4 points in that game. You had Kenyon Martin Jr. and Sterling Brown playing in that game. Like, they should have won that. They should have won that stupid game. They really should have.
And there's actually 2 games that are more meaningful, which are the wins against Orlando and Cleveland earlier in the season. But I didn't choose those because for the Orlando one, that's when Orlando was 4-2, one of the hottest teams in the league.
Right.
So, like, whatever. And then the Cleveland game, gosh, can you hear my dryer going off? It goes off like that forever. Did you hear that?
I think I did. I can take it out, or just leave it in.
Or just leave it in. The other one was the Cleveland game, but they won that game by like 20 points or something. So, or maybe it was like 11 points. It wasn't a close game.
Yeah.
So I didn't choose that one. Okay, next award.
What about the Dort 3? Did you consider the Dort
game
against
winner? San Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah, one was.
I considered that, but it was a fun moment, right? Like, that's a fun moment.
It was more fun than his block on John Wall.
Yeah, and then also beating Minnesota at home by 2.
That was a bad one.
Where, like, Naz Reid was like killing OKC. You're like, come on, Naz, like, you can do this, and somehow the Thunder fight back. But Shea played in that game. Lou played in that game. Like, they had a functional team. They had Shea, Lou, Teo, Kenrich, and Baisley starting. Like, that doesn't surprise me that they won. They were still playing Hami and Muscala too.
It's just so crazy to think one win. That's all it need to be.
Yeah.
One win. You flip it to a loss. We're tied for second right now. Amazing.
I know. And at the time, even like 3 weeks ago, it didn't feel like any of those were that significant because it didn't feel like the Thunder were going to be even close to that.
Right.
And they turn into literally one of the worst teams in NBA history over this stretch. And that's not an exaggeration whatsoever.
Okay, let's move on to the Defcon 1 award. This award goes to the team that we think is most likely to have major offseason changes as a result of losing early in the playoffs. I think this is a really interesting one because it not only requires a team to lose, but it also requires them to have moves that can be made. So, like, for instance, choosing the Lakers, like, let's say the Lakers didn't make the playoffs. They, like, lost 2 games in a row in the play-in tournament. Yes, that would be awful, but, like, what are they realistically going to do? Like, they're still going to keep LeBron and AD.
Right.
So it's not going to be a dramatic change. Same thing
THT.
with Yeah. Same thing with, like, the Bucks. Like, I think the Bucks would be another one, but, like, what are the Bucks going to do? There's not, like, an obvious move to make.
Right.
So who did you go with?
I picked the Blazers.
And I think that is probably the best bet.
Yeah.
Because they're going to go out in at least the first round.
Yeah.
If they don't fall back into the play-in tournament, which it looks like they won't at this point, they're going to lose in the first round, most likely. And there's already been rumors about the Blazers wanting to make a coaching change or, you know, what are they going to do with Norm Powell and CJ? So, yeah, I think that is the most obvious one. Yeah. One that I'll throw out there as my DEFCON 1 award. I don't necessarily believe this, and I don't think they would go out in the first round, but I do think if they lost in the first or second round, it would lead to major offseason changes, is the Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh, okay.
I'm starting to get a little worried about the Sixers.
Are you? Why?
I don't think I trust them.
Why? They've been pretty good, man.
I know they've been pretty good.
What don't you trust about them? What about it?
I don't trust their offense outside of Embiid. And I'm just worried that they're going to get in a bad matchup. I mean, they have proven nothing in the playoffs thus far with this group.
Sure.
I'm not betting against them yet. I just got my eye on it. And I think that, in a scenario where they match up with like the Heat in the second round, if the Heat stay in the 4-5, they beat Atlanta, you get a second round matchup with the Heat who are starting to put things together. It wouldn't shock me if the Heat beat the Sixers. And in that scenario, I do think there are moves that can be made. The obvious one being like a major Ben Simmons trade or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that would be the one. The other one that I thought of was the Clippers, because I do think there's an obvious move there with Paul George. I don't know what you would get for him, but if they're a team that goes out in the first round, which is plausible, or in the second round, I could see a big move like that.
Yeah, I had the Clippers on my list too. I mean, they play the Mavs in round 1. Would you be floored if they lost to the Mavs in round 1?
I wouldn't be floored, no, because the Mavs, I don't know if it's since the All-Star break, but within this recent stretch, they've been one of the better teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, they had a terrible start to the season. But if you just look at like the last month or month and a half, Dallas has been one of the better teams in the league. So, yeah, that would not shock me. I would still pick the Clippers to win. But, I mean, they took them to 6 games last year.
I know. That's what I'm saying. And you got another year of Luka. I don't know what Porzingis' status will be come playoff or play-in time or playoff time. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. There's just something weird about that Clippers team that I mean, Paul George signed the extension, yes, but we know that means nothing, right? Like anything can happen with that squad. And if Kawhi just says, yeah, I'm done, I want to go. I don't even know where he'd go. Like, where would Kawhi want to go if he doesn't stay there? Yeah, send me to Miami, or Miami finds a way to get cap space. Miami calls OKC and says, hey, we'll give you whatever you want so we can dump these contracts onto you so that we could get Kawhi. Kawhi and Jimmy in Miami would be sick.
That would be pretty cool.
Shoot. Yeah.
The Clippers are one team who could really benefit from the Blazers falling back into that 6th spot and getting them in the first round as opposed to the Mavericks. Okay, a few more awards, Andrew. Let's do a positive one. Good Karma Award. This goes to the lottery team that we think has built up the best karma for getting a top pick. I'm interested to see who you chose for this.
I picked Detroit.
Detroit! Didn't you see it? They sat Frank Jackson. That's not good karma.
I think that in the offseason, they made a lot of signings. They did well in the draft last year with their later picks. And they put a good executive in the seat there in Detroit. They're trying, like they're doing the right things, right? They're making all the right steps. They're tanking, but not so egregiously the whole season. And they've won a title in the past, but they've been really bad for a long time. I feel like they've kind of cleansed themselves of all these kind of rough players. Now they're kind of this fun little upstart team. And I feel like they've got a little karma behind them. So I'll say Detroit.
Interesting. Well, I was first going to go with Toronto just because everything they had to deal with being in Tampa.
Yeah, is that karma or just feeling sorry for them?
That is feeling sorry, but the basketball gods do feel sorry.
Okay.
But I decided to go with Orlando because talk about a team that has never really gotten any luck in the lottery. Like they've always been.
They were the number 1 pick 2 years in a row. They got Shaq and Chris Webber. Oh
my God, that was like 2 decades ago.
But
that was 25 years ago.
I know, but I mean, you just don't say never. Just say it's been a long time.
Okay, in the more modern era of the Orlando Magic, they have consistently gotten like one pick worse
They
than
got
what would have
Dwight at
been.
1.
Oh my gosh. Do you hate the Magic?
No, I just disagree. They've had tremendous luck throughout their franchise history.
Okay, when was he drafted? When was he drafted?
Was he 04?
No. Okay, so first of all, they are worst. I'm just looking at like the last 10 years, okay?
Okay.
When they were at their worst, it
Mhm.
just happened to be the Anthony Bennett draft. They get the second pick, they take Oladipo.
They got the best player.
Good for them. Not good enough. Next draft, they get the fourth pick. They take Aaron Gordon. Again, good player, but they're like just one pick away from Joel Embiid that year. 2015, the fifth pick, they take Mario Hezonja. 2016, they get the 11th pick. That's the Sabonis year.
Yeah.
The next year, they get the sixth pick, Jonathan Isaac. Like in every instance, 2018, they get the sixth pick, Mohamed Bamba. I don't know why I called him Mohamed that time. Mo Bamba.
Their own fault. All of this stuff there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds here.
I'm just saying it's been very rare for them to jump up. And meanwhile, this entire time, they're trying to do things the quote unquote right way by like trying to make the playoffs, trying to be a good NBA team. They make the playoffs 2 years in a row. They get waxed in the first round. We're all saying, oh, look at the Magic. They're such idiots. They're on this treadmill of mediocrity forever and ever. And then finally this year, they make the right decision. And they actually start to tank. And I think it's going to end up with some good karma, Andrew. That's all I'm saying.
I just could not disagree more.
Wow!
I think the Magic have it's all self-inflicted stuff. It's all, and the only correct move they made is at the trade deadline. Like if they were going to have karma, that's the only reason I would give it to them. Because like they get Oladipo, they get that, then they trade Oladipo and like a lottery pick for Serge Ibaka. They fire their executives. They fire their they're just, to me, they're just a mess. I think they've been a mess, is what they've been over the course of these years. I think that they, then they end up getting only Terrence Ross back in the Ibaka deal, but like he's probably too good of a player. Like you should have probably just looked for a pick, and like they're just, to me, it's just all self-inflicted stuff that's happened over the years with a bad franchise.
Wow. Okay. Well,
who has had tremendous luck, who has picked like number one generational type players in the past.
Yeah. Well, can we at least both agree that OKC would be pretty far down the karma list?
I don't know. What? Tell me. I haven't really thought about it.
Because more than any team in the league, I feel like they are blatantly tanking.
Yeah.
And if in this world where we're pretending that there's basketball gods and there's karma, blatantly tanking is the thing in terms of getting good karma. I mean, the whole idea behind like what team has good karma is like this team is doing things the right way and not purposely tanking. And between like the Horford sitting, the Muscala sitting, some of the things with injuries or resting guys, I feel like the Thunder, and to their credit, I mean, they had to do it because they were so good earlier in the season.
Yeah.
But they have more blatantly tanked than anyone else. And it's really showing up in the stats. I mean, if this team played over the course of an entire season, it might be the worst team in NBA history. Legitimately.
Yeah. It's all about the Shea injury, though. Like, that's all about it.
It's not, though. If Al Horford was playing every single night, they would win some games. If Mike Muscala was playing every single night, they'd win some games.
But if Shea didn't have that injury, Horford would be playing.
No, what?
Yeah, that was one of the inflection points. Yes, absolutely, yes.
You think that if Shea was healthy, that they would have just been satisfied being like the Kings right now and being 2 games out of the play-in?
I am telling you, it's a fact.
That's ludicrous to me.
It's an absolute fact. Yes.
Why would they do that? That wouldn't make any sense.
Bro, I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, it's the Shea injury was really what allowed everything to just let go of the rope.
That implies that they had like no incentive or no desire to get a high pick going into this season.
I'm just telling you, man.
I don't believe that.
It's true. It is without a doubt true.
Absolutely refuse to believe that. Not true. Don't listen to Andrew. He's lying to you.
It is a fact. It is a straight fact.
That would have been miserable.
I'm telling you, it is some of the worst fortune for Shea, some of the best fortune for Thunder fans and Thunder people in general. Because they would have been stuck. They'd be probably picking at 9 or something like that.
I think it'd be worse than that.
It could be. But they would be in like the 9-10 range had Shea not had this injury. I'm just telling you, man.
I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that you trade away a playoff roster, Schroeder, CP3, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams, and that you're just then satisfied with like the 10th pick. Like, I just refuse to believe.
It's not that they're satisfied. If Shea's healthy, I just don't know that there's a lot that you can do.
There is. They're doing it. They've done it. They shot. I'm about to say they shot Horford. They sat.
They took Horford out back.
They sat Horford. They sat Muscala. They've been resting guys. They were resting Shea, as brought up in the comments. I don't want to make it seem like I just said this. James Anderson said they were sitting Shea against bad teams before he got hurt. They were already sitting Shea.
Yes, they were. Part of it was the injury, though, is why they were sitting him. You just have to believe me.
No, I don't.
It is incredible fortune for the future of the franchise that he had this injury. It is.
No, we can't act like it's just pure luck when we all read the Sam Presti article. You think that he was going to write that article? We all know what it means. And then he's going to come into this season, just shrug his shoulders and be like, oh, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. I guess we're going to win 30 games.
If Shea's healthy, though, like there's still like best case scenario 7th.
You sit him. You make up an injury.
I don't think that happens, man.
It does. It happened with Golden State when they got Harrison Barnes.
I know.
It happened with the
what
San
did they take
Antonio
themselves
Spurs.
to? 8. I'm just saying that I just don't think
Spurs.
that they're. I just don't think that they're here. I think that they're like 7. I just don't think that they're here. If Shea doesn't sit all of this time, I don't think they're here. I think that they're probably closer to like the 20, like Toronto's 27-42. I think that they're probably closer to like 26, 27 wins.
I absolutely agree that in that scenario,
even if you sit Shea on back-to-backs, I still think that that's where they are.
No, you sit them more than that. They would have sat him more than that. You can't let this season just go by.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. Why are they
one of the only teams that don't have fans in the stands?
Dude, we can talk about this. We can talk about that one later. But I'm just saying that the Shea injury was a huge inflection point on everything.
And I'm saying if that's true, then the Thunder are not as well run as we thought. If it was just happenstance that they happened to get lucky and lucked out into this top pick.
If
that's true, that would make me feel 100 times worse about this franchise.
Well, then maybe you need to feel 100 times worse about the franchise.
All right, let's go back to our question. Cursed Fan Award. This goes to the team that we'd least like to be a fan of for the next 5 years.
March 31st, Alex. That was a month and a half ago. They had 20 wins.
I know. And I'm saying no matter Shea getting plantar fasciitis or not, they would have done what they needed to do, because I believe in Sam Presti's letter. I believe in the monumental moves they made in the offseason to get bad. They would not let that go to waste. I refuse to believe that.
I'm glad that you do. I just can't. I'm not with you on that. I'm not with you on that at all.
Well, then doesn't that concern you? What does that say about their likelihood of winning a championship?
This is what I would say. I would say that this draft there is more pressure with this particular draft than maybe any draft in the history of the team.
What do you mean?
Because if they come back next season with like Shea improving, Dort improving, Poku improving, whoever they get, like there is so much pressure for that player to be one of the players. Yeah. Because I just don't, without going to extreme measures, I just don't know if you can get back to this place again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I know that that's going to be a popular topic as we get into next offseason. We'll see what happens in the draft. If they draft 4 players in the first round and the first 2 picks of the second round, I do not think this team's going to be good next year. I do not think they're going to be in the play-in
tournament. Think they're going to be good, but I'm saying like bottom 3 teams.
I think they will still be very bad. If they're giving big minutes to 4 rookies, it will be bad.
Yeah,
regardless of whether Shea's back or not. Because I think if you're replacing some of these veteran minutes that you have for guys with 4 rookies,
what veterans are we talking about? What veterans are we talking about?
I'm saying going into next year. So like
I know, but what veterans are we talking about on this team? Like they were winning games.
Is Al Horford going to play next season?
I don't think Al Horford will be on the team.
Okay, so there's one veteran gone. Is Mike Muscala going to play on this team next season?
I don't know.
Those are the type of guys, and then you're replacing them with brand new rookies who you want to give a lot of minutes to. I just don't think it's I think coming into next season, there's going to be a lot of chatter about like Oklahoma City as a play-in team. And listen, if they get 2 top 5 picks and one of them is Cade Cunningham, absolutely, let's go. But if they get like the 5th or 6th pick, the 20th pick, 32 and 33 or whatever it ends up being, I think this team will be sub 30 wins, somewhere between 25 and 30 wins.
Yeah, my concern is that yes, they will not be good. I totally agree with that. My concern is that they will be like 7th, 8th pick good. With those teams.
That's where I would peg them at as well.
And that's why I'm saying there's a lot of pressure, because that is the exact that's the worst place to be in the league.
Well, exactly. So if you're saying that there's a ton of pressure on this draft,
tons,
then it makes sense that no matter what happened with Shea's injury, they would have had to take the steps necessary to maximize their odds this year, given everything you just said. It would never have made sense to just sit back.
I just have to bite my tongue on someone.
Did Rumble tell you this?
I don't think this would have worked. I don't think it would have. I think that they have been fortunate. I think this has been, without a doubt, I believe this has been fortunate for them.
That reflects so poorly on the organization, though, that they just lucked into this. When it's clear, if you look at since Shea's injury, they've done so much to make this happen.
I know. I realize that. I just think with Shea, if Shea was in the lineup for even half of the games, I think that Shea is TGTT.
And my opinion is that Shea would have never played in half the games, even if he was healthy. Okay, let's move on to.
I don't think that you can. I don't think you can.
Hey, I believe in Sam Presti. I believe in Sam Presti.
Yes, I believe in Sam Presti too. And here's the trump card for all of this is that they have so many picks in their treasure trove that maybe it doesn't matter that they're 8th next year, that they will say, hey, we'll trade you the 8th pick and 4 future first round picks for pick 4 or pick 5. And like those teams that have like no assets are like, oh my gosh, like we probably have to do this, kind of deal. Right. So like there are ways around it without being the worst team in the league. I just think that they are going to, if you continue to add talent, you continue to develop players, I think that it's going to be hard to be one of the worst teams in the league. It was hard this season to be one of the worst 3 teams in the league. There's you look at half of the season, like I said, at March 31st, they had 20 wins. And you think like there's no way they could be one of the worst 3 teams in the league, and then they have to go on this historically bad run to get there. I just don't know. I don't know if you can, and maybe they can. Maybe they can be that bad again. And I think it would be best for the franchise to be that bad again, without a doubt. I think that it would be better for them to be a 15-win team next season and get another top pick, and then go for it, than to try to be good. I just think I think that they have found themselves in a position where it will be difficult to do that.
I would say there's a few factors that I think we need to consider, which is one, this is not a bubble year, but this is the COVID year. There's going to be weird results from this year. And I would like to remind everyone, even when Shea was on this team, this was one of the worst 3 offenses in the league. The only thing keeping this team afloat was their defense. If you bring in a couple rookies and are playing them big minutes who have never played NBA defense before, I think the balance between being like this spunky competitive team and just being a bad team isn't as dramatic as you might think. I think that they maybe not fall off a cliff the way they did this year, but I can still imagine them having a like Detroit Pistons type season next year. Again, if they get 2 top 5 picks,
that would be wonderful.
Well, it wouldn't. We'd have to watch all this again.
No, but I mean, for the future of the team, it would be ideal
I would rather just
add players in this draft, and then to be able to add another top player for the next draft. Like that's ideal. I mean, that's how they did the Durant Westbrook Harden team.
Yeah, for sure. I would rather give me the 2 top 5 picks this year.
Sure, that is just outrageously ideal. Like it's something that I wouldn't.
It's a 1 in 4 chance.
I'm just saying, I in my brain cannot go there until it happens.
Yeah, I know for sure.
Even a 1 in 4 chance. I'm just saying, I just can't mentally go there. I just can't do it. We're off the rails. I didn't realize we're at like an hour 13.
Yeah. Should we just finish? Should I just do the favorite Thunder moment of the year award? We can stop there, or do you want to keep going?
We got to end it.
Okay. All right. So our final award, favorite Thunder moment of the year award. We're ending it on a very positive note. Favorite Thunder moment of the year award. I'm interested to hear what you chose, Andrew, because the one I chose, it was instantly remembered it. Took me back to a great time.
Well, there's a Shea Miami game that I really enjoyed, where he's like splitting the defense and he's showing off all the moves, and it was one of the moments where you start to realize like, oh, okay, this guy's really special. And then outside of that, losing 3 to the Kings is definitely one of my favorite moments of the season.
Mine was the Doherty 40 game, because
that was fun.
42 points against the Jazz. One, it was a loss.
True. So, you get the best of both worlds.
Didn't hurt us. Shot 7 of 11 from 3. And it was just my favorite moment because beginning of the season, even though he had the 30-point game in the playoffs, I just could not conceive of Lou Dort having a 40-point game. I would have never guessed that. Like if I had given that as a bold take at the beginning of the season, you would have probably been like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty bold." Like Lou Dort scoring 40. Like that's
I would say you're you're outrageous. Like, I don't care what the circumstances are. Like, there's no way that's happening. Yeah.
So it was just so much fun to watch in real time because as it's going on, you're like, oh man, is he going to get to 30? And then it's like, whoa, Dort has a legit shot to get to 40 points. And as we talked after that game, like if a few things bounce a little different, like he could have been relatively easy. I don't think he shot great from the line that game. Mm-hmm. So like we could have had a Dort 50 point game. But that was my favorite moment of the year. Favorite Thunder moment. What a season, Andrew.
What a season. It's been a weird season. And it will be over soon, which I think is good for everybody involved in this season. So, I mean, Alex, next Wednesday, we will be talking about exit interviews. Exit interviews are going to be Monday for the Thunder. And so we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about off-season stuff. We'll get into more arguments about what happened and what could have happened and what should have happened and whatever. It's going to be great. I did not mean for this to be such a long pod. Hope you guys are having a great day. And be sure to listen to the Fry Pod. We'll be here on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we will talk to you guys again Friday morning. Sorry if I yelled.
What?